This Food Blog Radio show is brought to you in part by the Cooking Everything Outdoors show, available on iTunes and YouTube. Hello, foodies. This is Gary House of Food Blog Radio, and I have the great pleasure of introducing Danielle Ellis of Edinburgh, Scotland, and we'll be discussing her food blog, edinburghfoody.com. Did I get that right?
Yes, that's not too bad.
Not too bad.
Hello,
Okay.
Gary.
Danielle, welcome to Food Blog Radio.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And it's a pleasure to have you on here. You're all the way over in Scotland, which to me is one of the dream places to visit. I've been to London and I've been to Europe, but it was so far back and so long ago that the memories are somewhat faded. But it's a beautiful country you live in.
Yes, and we think Edinburgh is better than London anyway.
Now, you're pretty close, as I looked on the map, you're pretty close to Loch Ness, right? You're up in that neck of the woods.
No.
No?
That's probably about 3 or 4 hours of drive away from us.
Oh, that's close. On a world perspective.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
So, Danielle, before we get started talking about your food blog, well, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your background and how you really got into this?
Okay. I've lived in Edinburgh for about 15 years, and I'm English, and I've been writing the blog for about 3 or 4 years now. And really why I started is because of my other job. I work as a digital marketing person, and at the time I didn't really know too much about blogs, and I was thinking, well, that's a great way of actually finding out what I need to do, how it works, how Twitter works, all this sort of thing. So I decided to start up the blog. Why food? Well, it's something of an obsession, I guess, and it's something I enjoy doing, but I also find that it's a universal language. So anywhere you go in the world, people manage to talk about food or motion that they like the food, and it's always a good topic.
Now, do you have any cooking background?
No, not. Well, I've cooked for as long as I can remember. My mother was a great cook, and then when I married my husband, I discovered that my mother-in-law is an amazing cook. She is particularly good at making cakes. I cannot rival her in making cakes. So yes, I cook because I enjoy it, and I cook every night, for instance.
Well, that's wonderful. And the inspiration behind a specific food blog, you titled yours, I found this kind of interesting. It's based on the name of the city you live in.
Yes.
And so you wanted to do something very regional and very focused on your area. And the decision behind that was?
Well, I think Edinburgh, I made a joke earlier on that it's better than London, but I think a lot of people don't know Edinburgh well. In fact, it's a very international city. Amazing number of people from all over the world live here. And I suppose part of it is a mission to tell more people about how great our city is and the food, and very much the people as well. Because although it's a city, it's like a village. You can go and meet people in one area, and then you come across them doing in something completely different. So everybody knows everybody else ultimately.
Wow. So how big is your city?
It's about 450,000 people.
Okay. So, well, that's a pretty good size.
It's a good size.
And you have little sections in there that are what I would call culturally different than other areas in there. So,
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I would say not in that way. They're more like a lot of little villages joined together.
Oh, okay.
But they're not necessarily ethnically different or from that point of view. So you do have areas that there's a lot of students in, because we have 4 universities, believe it or not.
Yeah.
You have another area called Leith, which is down near the water, and that used to be quite run down, but that's really coming up in the world now. So when I first came here, I would go to a particular place, or somebody would take me there, and And it took me a long time to realize that everywhere was quite close, really. But because I was driving there in a different way, it just sort of seemed as though, oh, that's a long way away from so-and-so. But it's great. A lot of lovely restaurants and food all over the place.
Well, that leads me to one of my questions. That when you started your blog, was it going to be about your recipes, or was it going to be about restaurants or chefs, or what was your initial direction for your food blog?
Do you know, I think we really, I write with a lady called Caroline, and really we just wanted to write about food and not necessarily to do restaurant reviews, because I think that after a while can become a little tedious. So what we do when we do review a restaurant is that we try and meet the chef, or we review a few together and actually bring those together. So it might be something about sushi or whatever. We're endlessly curious. So there's all sorts of things that we come up with, and we're led by PR people sometimes, or we go into a chef and he'll start talking about something. It just really excites us. So the pages you're looking on now are kind of like the roundup pages. So they're like a list.
Right.
You know, so those are all the ones that we've done over the years.
Okay. Well, this is fascinating. And the thing I love about your blog is that you've done so many restaurant reviews and cafe reviews, and it's kind of a mini tourist spot for me. I was going through some of these, and each one of them you have produced a fairly detailed article on, or in some cases links directly to the restaurant itself.
Yes. That's probably a mistake, that one, actually. It should go to the review. That's an interesting one. I'm not quite sure what's happened to that.
Well, let's find another one here. So let's look at the Film House.
Yes.
There you go. So, and this is a review of the restaurant. And your writing style, I enjoy. It's very personable. How do you describe your writing style?
Well, I think hopefully it's friendly. I think you get an idea of what we're both like, I think. And we just want to enthuse people. So, for instance, the Film House that is mentioned in here, which is one of the restaurants that's actually in here, is where we go to watch independent films. And it's a fantastic resource in Edinburgh anyway, let alone the food. So it's a great evening out if you happen to go to see a particular film. And I love watching French films, for instance. And that's just an added extra that you can go and you can get some really decent food as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you give all the information for their locations, and this you have a shopping list in that. What is that?
Well, sometimes I think because we know that not always do people want to eat out. They might want to try something themselves. And it's always very useful to find out where you can get that particular food. I mean, for instance, we have an amazing Chinese supermarket where we can get all our oriental ingredients, and the prices are so cheap compared to the supermarket. So it's the sort of thing that you'd like to pass on to other people. And it's so lovely when people say, oh, I didn't know about that. I'm going to try it out. Mm-hmm. That's what we particularly love.
Okay. How often do you post on your blog?
Once or twice a week. I keep saying we because I couldn't do this without Caroline. We were doing about up to 3, but we were just finding that we felt that was too much. So it's usually 1 or 2. Okay. At the moment, we've probably backed up, and we owe ourselves to write quite a few things up at the minute. Yes.
Now, tell us a little bit about Caroline.
So Caroline is a wonderful lady who is originally from Sweden. She writes as a technical author each day, but she's also award-winning for stories as well. She's won 3 prizes in this last year now as well. So I'm just hoping she doesn't get too successful, otherwise she'll stop writing this blog, I think.
Well, hopefully she'll stick with you. I'm sure she will.
I think she will.
Yeah. And what is she what has she written that's won these awards?
Two stories, three stories. She's been published in a book of short stories, and the most recent one was a competition to write a story that revitalized the Hansel and Gretel story.
When you write for your blog and you're doing a recipe, what is your process that you go through on a, for instance, your first one right here, it's Pasta with Love. And your process of going through writing an article, coming up with the recipe, why don't you go through that with us?
Again, it's probably being inspired by a particular ingredient. And on this one, there's a really fabulous company that makes fresh pasta that we came across at the local farmers market. And when we're lucky like that, we often ask for the producer to give us a recipe. So, for instance, at the moment, there's a recipe from Union of Genius soup that I posted today. So some of that is being inspired by the people that we've met. And then you think, well, I'd love to try that. So we both cook a lot. So it's very much our ingredients, because we have fabulous ingredients in Scotland. We have a lot of amazing fish. The vegetables are good too. And meat, the meat is fabulous. And if you've ever seen pictures of the Highland cattle, for instance, the very long-haired cattle, yes, you can have meat from them, which is amazing. So a lot of the time, if it's one of my own recipes, it's not a particular producer, it's something I actually have cooked a lot. So that it's easy. I think people want to be inspired, but they also want to have something that it be easy to do. They don't want to have to go and get 99 new ingredients. It's something that they could come home from work and rustle up.
I agree. I think quick and easy and simple is the way to go, though.
Yeah.
We're probably absolutely slightly on the minority side when it comes to some of this food that's being produced these days.
Yes. Yes.
And again, I have to say, I just love this, that you give references back for shopping and where you can get the ingredients locally in your area. I think that's just fantastic that you go through that much work.
Well, it's a passion, and we know we found it somewhere, so we just want to inspire people to go and find it as well, so that they're inspired.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, inspiration seems to come here where you have American Adventures. So tell us a little bit about American Adventures in cooking here.
Well, that's actually Caroline's trip that she went last year. Okay. And really her partner is all intents and purposes vegan, almost. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the time that she'll actually be going and looking and see, what could Christopher actually eat. You've come to a cocktails one, but so that inspires her a lot. Other things are, you get an obsession for something. Like, I think she got really excited by fish tacos. If you say tacos like that, or is it tacos?
Tacos.
I'm not sure.
Tacos, yes.
So she started looking at these and then sort of, analyzing what made a good fish variety one. So that was fun.
Well, and you have wonderful fish where you live too.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely
amazing. The trouble is sometimes that it's getting it, because it gets exported into Europe. A lot of it goes to Spain, which is, everybody's thinking it's Spanish fish, but it's actually ours.
The market has strange demands, doesn't it?
It does, rather, yes.
So, Danielle, who takes the photos for your blog?
Oh, we do. We always, apart from ones that are on the front page at the moment, we take everything.
Okay. What kind of equipment do you use to take your photos?
It's a small SLR camera, and it's a Casio, and I'm actually on my third one in about 3 years.
Okay.
I work them very hard, so they're not very sophisticated, but it's good practice to just keep trying and taking things and finding out what works best.
Now, your prep for your photos on your recipes and such? Is it just plate it and shoot it, or do you go through lighting and detail and food styling?
No,
No,
we just take it.
I'm the same way. Yeah.
I have a photographer friend who took the pictures on the front page, and I guess he probably despairs of me, but I think we try and make it decent so that you can see what you've got. But we rely on sort of local lighting.
Mm-hmm.
I know in the house, for instance, I know exactly where I can take pictures that will come out better than others. And it's a surprising place too.
Yeah, because of the natural lighting.
Yeah.
Okay. So you also review cookbooks, gadgets, products, and of cookbooks and gadgets and products, really, what is your favorite that you like to get your hands into and test and try out?
Well, cookbooks are wonderful, I think. If you go into that cookbooks list, this guy is only, well, he might be 22 now, but say 21. And he's a student in Edinburgh. And I heard that he was producing this book, and I asked for a review copy, and it was fabulous. If you scroll down, you can sort of see it's a very much something for the modern person who's used to using an iPhone or iPad. There's lots of lovely drawing. There's lots of snippets. Mm-hmm. But also the recipes are just fabulous. And I got a friend of mine who is, I call her a reluctant cook. And I said, can you go and try these out for me as well? And she came back and she said, oh my God, I've cooked things. It's marvelous. It's amazing. And she's actually still cooking from the book. And that to me is the review of a really good cook.
Absolutely.
So that you can see Helen's verdict there. So,
Oh, there it is. Right. Yeah. Plus
Absolutely.
Points and some very minor points, but very enthusiastic.
Yeah. Yes.
That's fantastic. Now, I noticed something here, and I think it was on this page, that where you have grab a cookbook. I think this was a great idea. Tell us about this grab a cookbook and the Trussell Trust.
Well, the thing is, you do get a lot of review books if you're lucky enough to do that. And then some that, although they're fabulous and you want to review them, they're not the ones that that you would actually cook from a lot yourself. And I'm afraid I have over 150 books, cookbooks. So the idea is that people make an offer for one of these books, and they donate to the Trussell Trust, who fund food banks, and then I send them off, pay for the postage, and that gets donated. So it's just a way of giving them away, really, but we just raise some extra money for the Trussell Trust.
Oh, I love this idea. I think it's just fantastic. And, as I'm going through and looking around at my cookbook collection and the ones that have an excessive amount of dust, this is probably a great idea.
I think so.
Yeah, kudos to you. I think this is just fantastic.
Good.
You have separated, and I'm gonna jump back a little bit here because, as I've said, I just love this concept, and I was looking through a bunch of them. You've separated restaurants and cafes.
Yes.
And when you go to click on this, your cafes, for instance, you have a map.
Yes.
And I love this map because when you go to it, it shows all the little restaurants and cafes in your area that you have gone to and where they're located.
But it is so easy to do. It's thank you, Google. It's the easiest thing to do. But it just means that you can find, if you know that you're in a particular area, that you know where to go to. And why we have the difference between cafes and restaurants is that to us, cafes are ones that you would tend to visit in the daytime. It's something fairly peculiar, I suppose, to the UK, is that cafes do not tend to open particularly late.
Oh, okay.
So if you're going somewhere in the evening, it tends to be a restaurant. So that's the kind of differentiation for us.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a little difficult to so you'll find them actually in both categories, but it usually does pan out quite well.
Now, would a cafe also be serving breakfast?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So breakfast, lunch, cafe, dinner would be a restaurant.
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, you're also on Twitter.
Yes.
All right. Let's see if we can get this open here. And I'm following you.
Good.
And
I'm following you.
Yeah, well, thank you. And you have quite an active little Twitter following here.
Yes.
You have 5,093 that you're following and 5,803 followers. And it looks like you have, some pretty good interaction on here as you get further into that.
Yes. Yes. Today we were talking about pancakes because there's a local, the BBC Scotland food programme was having a programme about pancakes, and they were asking us for what flavours would you like. Please don't go for the usual sugar and lemon, which is standard for the UK. Mm-hmm. So there was lots of chat going on about different flavours. I came up with raspberry and whiskey, which they seem to like.
Now, is a pancake in Scotland the same as it is in the United States, where ours is just a fluffy circle that we pour maple syrup over?
Yes, it will be the thin sort. So I think that's, yeah.
Yours are thinner.
So, yes, very thin. We'd usually put lemon juice and sugar and then roll them up.
Oh, okay. All right. And you stuff them sometimes, filling with different ingredients?
Yeah. But it tends to be sweet.
Okay.
Really.
So, yeah. On the lines of a crepe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is more like a crepe. Yes.
Now, on your Twitter account, do you come up with various topics? Is that what you do to stimulate conversation on there?
I think I'm quite an eclectic sort of person. So I subscribe to blogs and read newspapers and all sorts of things. And it's honestly things that interest me. So I try always to be talking about food only. I don't go off topic like some people may do. So I often schedule things. So maybe of a weekend I find some interesting stories and then I'll schedule them throughout the week so that there's always something going on, because I know that we're all busy and there'll be times when I can't tweet. So there's always something there. That's
good. That keeps people engaged and interactive. I think that's fantastic. One of the questions I had, Danielle, was your spelling of foodie. Now, is that how it's spelled in Scotland?
Not really.
No, okay. You're just having fun.
I just decided to do something different. Okay. It should be IE, really.
Well, no, this is great. I mean, I would think that it would work both ways, and there's no reason why you can't spell it foodie with a Y.
No.
I don't think. And heck with them that think otherwise, right?
Absolutely. Yes, because I always say, Edinburgh Foodie with a Y, and it doesn't seem to have too much of a problem.
No, not at all.
If you click on events, there's nothing much in there at the minute.
Okay, there's nothing on events, yes, but there was a section in here that I noticed that was about Discover the Taste. And that was a competition, if I remember right.
Well, Discover the Taste was how I started off doing food tours and events. And that was probably what you were thinking of.
Okay.
So that is going back, 10 years or so. I worked for an American company and they moved out of Scotland, so I was made redundant. And it was, what do I do as a job? And at that time, if you were marketing in high tech, you were supposed to stay in marketing in high tech. So I started doing some food tours and events as well as doing some contracting and marketing. So that's, again, where the food comes in. Yeah.
Well, it's fantastic. You also have, I see, a Kickstart program that you're supporting for somebody else.
Yes.
And and that's the one you just put up, right?
Oh, that is exciting. The most wonderful, wonderful lady. We have a soup kitchen called Union of Genius. And not only is the soup absolutely fabulous, they support all sorts of local businesses. So they're buying local bread, local chocolates, local ingredients. They have a guy who delivers the soup to other cafes to sell on a bike. They have
this young man right there, I bet.
Yeah.
Is that the bike guy?
Yeah, Pedal Power, his name.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And so then because they're doing so well supplying other cafes, they now want to get a commercial soup kitchen going. And about 3/4 of the way to the target at the moment of £10,000. So you'll find that a lot of the bloggers in Edinburgh have really been talking about this a lot, because we just absolutely adore what they do. The soup is to die for.
Wonderful.
And there's a recipe at the bottom here. It is for quite a large quantity, but it's just one of their newest recipes that they've actually shared with us, which is very exciting.
So it's vegan, dairy-free, and gluten-free.
Yes.
And all we have to do over here is change some of the measurements, but it does look like it's going to feed quite a bit. Yes. Yes. Looks fantastic.
That takes 4 litres. So, I mean, I guess that's, you'd probably be eating that a lot for a week, wouldn't you?
Well, if it's good, that's good. Yeah. Danielle, when does this Kickstarter end? Oh, February 17th.
Yes.
Okay, so real close.
It is.
I wish them the best of luck on that.
I'm sure they'll do it.
Yeah.
So the lady who set it up, she was working in a government organisation for 10 years and decided to give it up to get this going. And it's been going for about 18 months, I suppose. So that's a real inspiration.
Absolutely. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, Danielle, in closing, again, I want to compliment you on your blog. I just absolutely love the cafes, the restaurants. Your recipes certainly stimulated my appetite.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. What would you like to leave us with about you or your food blog, or where you're going in the next few years with it? I
think something that I've enjoyed myself is that when I've visited a new city, I've actually got in touch with bloggers that write in that city, and I'm very willing to help people if they get in touch with me to give them a few pointers. So it's always an exchange.
Wonderful.
I'd love to do that.
Well, thank you. And it's very generous, because I know blogging, and I've talked about this before, blogging takes a lot of time, and you put a lot of resources and energy into these things, and that anybody that's willing to share is top-notch in my book. So thank you, Danielle, for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've been a wonderful guest, and I really appreciate you taking out the time to be with us on Food Blog Radio. And I want everybody that's listening to this or watching this to get over to her blog. I'm going to try this one more time. Edinburgh Foodie.com.
EdinburghFoody.com.
There she goes. She does it so much better than I do. Thank you, Danielle. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you, Gary. It's wonderful.